Congratulations, Alex.
Thank you.
We're here at Frightfest. We're talking Crawl, and I can't tell you how happy I was to be able to talk with you again about just filmmaking in general, but let alone Crawl. And I was glad that I also talked with Michael and Sean before I talked with you, because there was a few holes I was curious about. First and foremost, with a film like this, talk about what it's like to be at Frightfest and have it play in front of this crowd.
I mean, Frightfest is something that's very dear to me because back in 2003, I came here with High Tension or Switchblade Romance. What's the UK title? Yeah. I came with Cécile de France, and we were like presenting the movie, and it was kind of, I think, one of the first time that we were showing the movie outside France to a proper. It was before TIFF,
right?
And it was really like a proper crowd, like a proper genre-driven crowd. And I was such a great welcome. I remember going on stage, and they were like a quiz to win some T-shirts. I remember like the audience being so thrilled about the movie, and that was very nice, obviously.
When you look at a film like Crawl, I'm glad you bring up High Tension. It's the benchmark for a lot of people, and it's a film that, established so much. You bring your DP from High Tension onto Crawl. Talk about having someone who you've built a legacy with, and that shorthand that's important for a film like this.
I mean, yes, Maxime is, without the shadow of a doubt, like one of my closest friends now.
Right.
Since we're working together since 2001. So it's been a lot of years, and we are like living in that mutual illusion that we are not aging. I think we still have so much fun, like every movie that we made together, and I think all together we made 10 movies or 9. I mean, between the one I produce and the one that I direct. And, he's still so creative and so open. What I like working with Maxime is that there is never like a negative answer. It's always like, oh, well, let's try that. And there is a collaboration, it's a collaboration about the lighting. And I work with other DP where you can not really say a lot. Absolutely. Where you basically like, that's the way they do. And you can question a little bit, but not that much. With Maxime, there is a collaboration where, I can say, oh, I don't like this. Let's do it differently. Also because I'm so quite on top of the framing, and I really like to, I don't operate myself, but I really, kind of design the shot in a certain way, and I like to do that. It's one of my favorite part of that job. It's something that I like to do with Maxime because I can really have that conversation with him, and but not only him. I have like a full family of people. I mean, Greg Levasseur, who also was a producer on Crawl, is someone that even go back earlier than that. We met when we were 12, and
wow.
and we work on almost every movie together. So there is a small group of people, and it's always nice to also have new people joining the team and working with us.
I don't think it's any sort of coincidence that this film seemed to get that green light after A Quiet Place. Quiet Place opened up the door for a lot of these family in peril kind of films, which is amazing, wonderful, especially coming out of the same studio. But on more of a personal level, having that family connection to the people that you've worked with, especially some on Crawl, I mean, is the family aspect the thing that connects you perhaps the most to a story like this?
I'm very family driven for sure, as in my personal life, and I come from a very like tight family, and where family was always very important. So yes, like the idea of like, can you be courageous enough to go into a hurricane category 5 to save your dad?
Right.
Is definitely a question that echoes in my personal self. I mean, like, I'm really, I will love to be as strong as she is and be able to do it and survive that day. So yes, definitely it's something, but also making movies are so difficult that if you don't have a group of people that you can actually talk to and share and be fully honest, where there's no bullshit, where there's no, like, let's pretend that we know everything, and where you can actually have heart-to-heart conversation.
Right.
It's something very important. this is every creative work is, come with a big share of doubts on everything, and sometimes you need very close friend that you trust to, bounce ideas and be sure that you're doing the right thing.
When I talked to Cole and Sean, they admitted that the early drafts of the film were very fantastical. In fact, they credit you as being one of the people who really tightened it up and brought a 3-act structure that they set in their original screenplay to the 2 acts that we see in the film, and then kind of changing up how the 3rd act is. Can you talk about working with them and your touch of experience that helped to bring the story together?
I was looking for a project that will give me the opportunity of going back to something more straightforward and like something like High Tension or The Hills Have Eyes. And I was reading a lot of stuff, and nothing was really strong enough. And I remember when the other producer, Craig Flores, sent me Crawl. I remember it was on a Friday, and I got the script. And along with the script come that log line, very simple log line about this, woman that has to save a dad in a Category 5 hurricane in Florida, and is like flooded and infested with alligators. And I remember like just putting down my phone and like, what? That's exactly what I'm looking for. It was so obvious. It was so obvious for me. I was in. I kind of ran the idea through a few people, and they were not that crazy about it. Like, like an alligator movie, like kind of rejecting it. But somehow I was already making the movie.
Right.
It's like, no question. And then I don't remember for what reason I couldn't read the script right away. And I read the script a few days after. But during that time, between the falling in love with the log line and reading the script, I kept thinking about it. I kept thinking about everything I would like to see and what the movie would be. So of course I kind of feed my brain into like other stories. So when I read the script, it was very unlikely it will be exactly what I had in mind. So I read the script and I loved it, but I was kind of disappointed that the whole movie was taking place in the crawl space, that the relationship between the dad and her was not the same or developed, that the house was not the family home. I mean, there is like a lot of elements that were kind of not in that original script. And I understand where they were coming from. They wanted to, and the same with Craig Flores, they wanted to make this, kind of very smart, contained Netflix or movie,
right.
Like for 5 million that you can do fast. And it's not really what I wanted to do. So I explained, I said, like, I understand if you want to make this movie, great, I will go see it. But if you want to make what I would like to do, here's, what will change. I will definitely reduce the crawl space to just a part of the movie.
Right.
I will definitely bring that one location to the storm itself, to have like the water coming up from the crawl space to the rooftop, and that's like the ticking clock of the whole movie. I will change the relationship to this and this, and then like they really respond in a very positive way, and they did an amazing job rewriting it. And then after, I took a pass for a few months on the script as well to I think like bring it where it is now. But it was a great collaboration.
For a film like this, there's so many visual elements. You talked about the pace and how the storm kind of sets the runtime of the film, and this is something we talked about with Campfire Creepers. The sound design always intrigues me, and for a film like this where you're dealing with the storm, you're dealing with the alligators, even down all the way to the puppy dog that you got in there, which is a very sweet touch. The sound design is so layered and so important and plays such a role. Talk to it.
There is like one thing that we knew from the beginning, is because of the storm and the wind machine and the rain, that looking for soundstage was kind of vain. So we didn't need soundstage. That was the really good news. So we just needed to find the most crazy big warehouse to build this gigantic tank. And, we had to face the reality of it. We were making a movie where sound will be very unhappy, where the sound people will barely capture some witness of some dialogue. And they did a really good job, because at the end of the day, we managed to save a lot of production, a lot of the real dialogue between Barry and Kaya, and that was I was not expecting to be able to save that much. Then the whole like sound design thing was, I mean, I was also lucky because it happened that alligators are very, very vocal. They are like more vocal than most of the creature out there.
Yeah.
They have this crazy E flat, kind of sound that they are making, and vibration, and they growl. And so we very early on we had like a full library of alligator sound to be able to put in the very silent because of production, like scene that we were shooting.
Right.
At the end, the most challenging part was how you create a suspenseful moment in such a loud, like a scene.
True.
The storm exists and it's part of the story, but if you play the storm super loud, you will not be scared because it's kind of like having a plane, like the engine of a plane next to you. So we had to play with like the crawl space being much more isolated from the outside. The rain is also like the worst thing that you can have, which is white noise. White noise is like the enemy in any sound design. So, I mean, it was very, very, very challenging. And Victor Ennis, who was our lead sound designer, had to struggle so much to create the right tone for the movie. That was a tough one.
The sound design is incredible, and there you could sit down for hours and talk the sound design pertaining to the location, the ADR, and such. But with the time we have, speaking of ADR, talk about casting, and especially Barry Pepper, because Barry Pepper is now reaching a certain age where he's taking on a whole different realm of performances. I was very surprised and unsure about him being the dad, but it works so well. What made, especially with him, the right cast?
To be honest, first I was like imagining someone older,
right?
And then when his name come on like as a suggestion, I always being a huge fan of him. I mean, he's an amazing character actor, and he has so many memorable, crazy, fun performance in so many movies. But I was like, oh, he's too young. He's not going to be. And then I talked to him, and he said, I have a daughter that's almost the same age. And my relationship with my dad, he told me, is very, very similar to Ellie's relationship with her dad.
Right.
And I understood that he was really linked to it. And then, like you see this really interesting video that he's doing is also like
he's a trainer, a coach.
No, not a coach.
Okay.
He's a blacksmith in his spare time. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, no, he's real. There is a video online where you see him like, yeah.
Wow.
And I thought, this is the character. I can see him. I can see this very rock and roll kind of dad that used to be a coach, that's kind of handyman now, and who's kind of being not taking his divorce lightly, and was really ready to give up and doesn't want to, like go away from the house and maybe die in the storm. And I thought it was a very, moving performance. And I think it was the right choice because somehow Barry kind of connected very well with the character and with Kaya. They knew each other from Maze Runner, but they never really had a scene together. It was interesting to see how that relationship kind of built between the two of them, and how like you could feel the same tension from daughter, father on set between them. Even they were going alone, but they were disagreeing. Like somehow Barry, in his very male perspective, was kind of like, I have to save my daughter. That's what I will do. I will save my daughter. Yes, but you can't because your leg is fucking broken.
Exactly.
And I was kind of that struggle of, like, he's a very method actor where he needs to, like believe in everything he's doing.
He didn't break his leg, did he, on his own?
Almost. But it was kind of thing. And I said like, yes. And that was challenging for me in a good way, because I had to be sure that every choices they were making was, making sense. But in the same time, it was also fitting the dynamic between the two of them. And that's something that I was not expecting. I think that's what works so much.
Talk about the isolation of the film, because you have it with the location, you have it with the alligators, you have the isolation of the family dynamic. So there's several different ways that it's pushed forward. Talk to it.
It's definitely one thing that we work a lot on the script was this kind of subtext about, you know, like the house, the family house being their family history, and the family history being destroyed by grudges and you know, like things that have never been told between the two of them, the same way the water is destroying the
Right.
house, and you know, the alligators being that kind of allegory for the divorce that destroyed the family. But
So many layers.
no, but then there's this other thing that I kind of really like as well, which is, you know, somehow Barry represents that kind of very white Americana generation
Very.
who kind of gave us this kind of climate change a situation, and somehow Ali represent that new generation that has to deal with it and let the old world being destroyed and washed in the flood and build something else. So I mean, there is a lot of like little element that I really wanted to bring, and they are lost in the storm. No one is coming for them.
Right.
What I really like is basically when you're in that situation and when the water comes into your place, you know, you're back into that very interesting prehistorical time where you have to fight the wild beast again to survive.
And it's funny because those who try and come and save and those who linger within the storm outside the house are part of the comic relief in the
Yes.
story, you know. Let me finish with this. And Alex, thank you so much. Congratulations again. Very bankable movie, huge in the States. You guys have all done a tremendous job. When I talked to you a couple years ago, one of the reasons why you did Campfire Creepers was so that your child and those could watch something that you've done. Crawl also, in my opinion, falls under that.
Completely.
Now, was that a factor in wanting to take on a movie like
It
that?
wasn't because I really fell in love with the story and I knew I wanted to do it. But then the perks of that was that I, you know, saw on in my son the same kind of audience member I was with Greg Levasseur when we were 12 and we were going to see those movies. And I remember like a screening we did in Paris a few months ago where I had him and all his friends coming to see the movie.
That's awesome.
And then this is the most satisfying thing because then it was yes, you know. And I have some friends here in London didn't heard about the movie, and then their son like, oh, you know, like talk about the movie and want to see it. And the fact that there is a new generation of viewers that are like discovering genre movies and discovering that type of survival creature movie outside of the Conjuring world through Crawl. It's a very good. I really like that. It's very nice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.